Good afternoon. For those of you who do not know me, I am Bagdasarian, the curator of the Armenian Cultural Foundation. And on behalf of the Board of Trustees, I would like to begin by welcoming you and thanking you for taking time on this beautiful Boston fall afternoon to join us for this very special book launch of a memoir by Hinako Fujihara-Hovhaness, dedicated to the love of her life, Hovhaness, one of the greatest composers of the 20th century. I might be wrong, but I'm not aware of any musician writing a memoir. Brilliant minds living in a different orbit are usually fully engulfed and immersed in creating their music. Hovhaness, of course, was not an exception. It would be hard to imagine that a composer credited to have created over 500 pieces, 230 of which have never been recorded. By the way, have not been recorded, as I said, including 68 symphonies, 22 tone poems, 35 chamber pieces, 11 operas, including 2 that he wrote when he was a high school junior at Arlington High School. And not to mention, by his own confession, over 1,000 pieces that tragically were destroyed, having the time to think about writing his autobiography or a memoir. This was a task that his wife of 23 years, who apparently had kept a personal diary or some notes, took upon herself. She has chronicled the life of her husband, one of the most brilliant musical minds of the 20th century. Through this memoir, for the first time, the world will learn about the most personal aspects of not just a musical genius, but also a husband, father, and grandfather. This book launch is different because it includes a musical component, and not just a piece or two, but an entire concert. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our performers for accepting our invitation to present a program that I'm sure will prove to be unforgettable. This event, in a way, is the culmination of years' work geared towards bringing awareness in the Arlington community and beyond to perhaps its most famous son, Hovhaness. The inspiration and force behind all of these activities has been Mr. Jack Johnston, longtime resident of Arlington, childhood friend and next-door neighbor to the Hovhannesses, and a friend of the ACF. Unfortunately, Jack could not join us today. I hope he is watching on live stream right now, and I would like, on behalf of the ACF Board of Trustees, to express our gratitude for his persistence. In addition to the installation of the Hovhaness Memorial on the grounds of the Whittemore Park beside the Cyrus Dallin Art Museum in 2009, ACF has initiated a number of other projects to highlight Hovhaness's brilliant work and legacy. Among these are the Hovhaness website and the QR code, installation of a sign on the corner of Hovhaness's childhood home on the 5 Blossom Street, the official dedication of which will take place this week. Efforts are also made underway to have Hovhaness prominently recognized at the Arlington High School complex. In this journey, I would like to recognize 2 individuals, close friends of the ACF, Michael Armanius and Alan Jones, both of Arlington, who have been very supportive in the realization of both above-mentioned projects. I would like to take this opportunity to also thank them again and recognize them for their hard work, support, and dedication. Unfortunately, Alan could not be here today, but I think Michael is here somewhere, probably in the back. Last but not least, we have 2 special guests all the way from Seattle. I would like to recognize Mr. William Holst, Hovhaness's stepson, and his wife, Karine. I had the privilege of hosting them I had the privilege of hosting them over a year ago when they visited Arlington to attend a concert as part of the Mayarak Chamber music series in tribute to Hovhaness. It was during that visit that I learned about the book, which is to be launched today. We are delighted to see this important project become a reality. One quick note about the program. Unfortunately, Mr. Marvin Rosen was not able to be here with us in person. Instead, he sent us a video of his talk, which we will have the opportunity to hear and watch during the program on the TV screen. Lastly, I would like to express my sincere thanks to our co-sponsors, Amaras Art Alliance, National Association for Armenian Studies and Research, and Arlington Community Media, Inc., ACMi, its operations manager, Mr. Jeff Monroe in particular, for their support. Now, without further ado, I would like to invite our performers to the stage to start the program. And please turn off your cell phones or electronic devices or put them on mute, if you could, please. Thank you very much.
Give our personal thanks to Ara for inviting us and making us part of the project. I'm looking for Ara, I cannot see him. And the foundation, the Cultural Foundation here in Arlington has a very special place in our hearts. Daniela and I started collaborating together a little bit before the pandemic, and we met with Ara and we told him that we're starting this new duo together, Marimba and voice, and he was gracious enough to tell us, once you put the program together, you will be invited to perform here at the foundation. And then pandemic happened. So for 2 years we had plenty of time of researching pieces and collecting pieces which are obviously not written for marimba and voice, and we did a lot of arrangements. But the first in-person concert was back here on this stage in early 22, probably in March of 22, when Ara invited us to perform our first in-person concerts after the pandemic. These two pieces that you heard in your programs, maybe the Gomidas doesn't need introduction, but we're doing an arrangement of a little bit more contemporary sounding Gomidas. It's the Armenian folk song in combination with a little bit more color painting with music of the chords which are on a marimba. And in the early dawn time is Fujihara-Hovhaness's song beautiful song, I hope you agree with me, which the lyrics are by Hovhaness himself. And the piece has not been performed
For a long time.
for a very long time. And Mrs. Hovhaness was kind enough to send the music to a friend of Daniela's. And
It's out of print, so.
it's out of print, so you're not going to hear this piece very often being played. And I could tell you that the voice part is, she's singing it the way it's written, but I'm doing my justice to the piano part, to a busy piano part, which is, yes.
And
So-
then we're gonna follow with a piece called Byzantine Blue that it's written originally as a meditation for marimba and flute. So I'm doing the flute part. It's written by a friend and a colleague, Nikola Radan, who like me comes from former Yugoslavia. And it's a meditation on the fall of Byzantium in 1453. It's in an odd meter. It's in a 5/8 meters, so it's uneven to sort of reflect on the uneven step of people who are fleeing the city that fell. So that's something that we have in common, heritage of fall of the Constantinople at that time. And I will be playing the drum. And after that, we're gonna follow it with another Hovhaness piece that we just started working on, that I discovered recently. It's called Lullaby of the Lake, and we thought it would be fitting to perform it on the Mystic Lake in Arlington. The text is by Consuelo Claus, and I got the music through out-of-print scores seller in Colorado, because again, I couldn't find the score, but luckily there was one copy that this person in Colorado had and was willing to sell to me. So the piece is beautiful, and enjoy.
And it's also for piano and voice.
Oh yeah. Oh, and just to let you know what the song is about the fall of Constantinople, because I'm doing the flute part, I actually put a couple of lines from a Serbian folk song, and the text is as follows: "Sing to me, my servant." And then the servant replies, "I cannot, my lord, I cannot, because the sorrow is too heavy upon me."
Oh
Lullaby of the Lake is not in your programs because we added it literally 2 weeks ago. We received the music. On that visit that we came first with Daniela to see the place, Ara was kind enough to show us upstairs all the treasurable books he has, posters, and we noticed that there was a framed piece of music. Little we knew that there was this framed piece of music was a donation to the school, to the foundation, but it is original by Hovhaness. So we took some pictures with our iPhones, and then pandemic happens, and we had a lot of time. So it's written for organ and tenor, yes. So I rearranged the music to be for marimba, and obviously Daniela is not a tenor, she's a mezzo-soprano. But we performed this piece in many different locations, and as a performer I always think that music needs to be performed in order to live. Composers live and die, unfortunately, even if we have them for as long as Hovhaness lived. But when their music gets to be played on different stages, their music makes them still alive, still being with us. In the last 12 months, we performed this piece at Northwestern University in Illinois, and we also performed it at the Bulgarian Embassy in Washington, D.C. So it comes back to this home where the music was taken from the wall.
Hello, my name is Marvin Rosen, and my presentation is titled, Why I Love Hovhaness. You just heard the opening of Danse Ghazal by Hovhaness. This was originally composed back in 1931. Danse Ghazal is a very important composition to me personally. When I visited the composer in Seattle in May 1992, I received a signed copy of the work, which was a perfect opener for my first CD, Fred the Cat, on the Koch International Classics label. I also heard it at the recording session, which I attended, of the Symphony No. 22, City of Light, conducted by the great Gerard Schwartz. This CD on the Delos label also included the Symphony No. 50, Mount St. Helens. Hovhaness was a very prolific composer, and like other prolific composers, employed various musical ideas in more than one work. Ghazal is a Persian word meaning love song. The theme of Danse Ghazal was also used in the third movement of the Symphony No. 22, City of Light. Hovhaness is the most important composer in my life. In January 1980, I met him for the first time in New York after the world premiere performance of his Symphony No. 34 for bass trombone and strings. At that time, he signed my copy of the Madras Sonata, which was commissioned by the Madras Academy of Music for their first concert of Western music. After this very brief but friendly chat, I decided that I wanted to try and meet Hovhaness for an extended period of time. I wrote to him, not expecting an answer. 10 days, literally 10 days after I mailed the letter, I received a handwritten reply. There was no email, of course, back then. I could not believe that he responded to me so quickly. He said he would be happy to hear me play his music for piano. I was very, very excited, as I'm sure you could imagine, but also very, very nervous. Oh my gosh, I was going to play for Hovhaness again. Oh my gosh. Since he was going to be in New York, I had the crazy idea to invite him to my home in Princeton, New Jersey for dinner. I invited him, as well as his wife Hinako and mother-in-law, Jun Fujihara. They accepted. Our meeting was on June 22nd, 1980, and I was still a student at the time. Hovhaness was a very kind man, whom I felt I knew for a very long time, even after speaking to him for only a few minutes. After I played for him, he played his recent piano sonata, Sonata Ananda, Opus 303, on my piano. Wow, what a day. I later gave the East Coast premiere of that piano sonata. Hovhaness lived from 1911 until 2000 and was greatly inspired by Armenian music as well as by music from the Oriental countries. Hovhaness was also influenced by the music of the Middle Ages and Renaissance. I actually became very interested in early music thanks to the works of Hovhaness. As mentioned earlier, Hovhaness was greatly inspired by Armenian music and was greatly encouraged in 1943 to experience the music of his heritage by the Greek painter and mystic Hermann de Giovanni. Hovhaness became interested in the works of Komitas Vartabed, who is considered to be the founder of the Armenian National School of Music. Hovhaness described him as a kind of Armenian Bartok before Bartok. I would like to mention two works of the Armenian period which lasted from 1943 until 1950. The first of these, Lusadzak, The Coming of Light, Opus 48, was written in 1944. It is a concerto for piano and string orchestra, which is considered to be the first composition by the composer to make use of the technique known as spirit murmur. When this technique is being employed, passages are repeated independently to create a murmur effect. This technique came to its height in the 1960s in the Symphony No. 19 Vishnu, composed in 1966. The passages employing this technique are used throughout the symphony. Another important work of Hovhaness from the Armenian period of the 1940s is the Symphony No. 9, Saint Vartan, who is considered to be an Armenian national hero. The Saint Vartan Symphony, completed in 1950, is in 24 short movements and is about 45 minutes long. It features dances and beautiful aria movements of deep spirituality. The Armenian period also includes some piano works which imitate, for example, the oud, a Middle Eastern lute, and the kanun, a Middle Eastern string instrument, which is similar to the zither. The piano composition, Farewell to the Mountains, Opus 55 No. 2, was written in 1945 and imitates the sound of the oud. This short piano piece was dedicated to Raja Hoyden. You may ask, who was Raja Hoyden? Raja Hoyden was a very special black cat who lived from 1935 until 1949. Hovhaness loved him and was greatly inspired by him. I would have loved and really loved to introduce him to my black Persian cat, Moosh, who I am sure Hovhaness would have loved. Going back in time to my student days, I became interested in the music of Alan Hovhaness after hearing his music for the first time on the Masterwork Hour on WNYC. I was only about 16 years old and totally stopped what I was doing when a gorgeous work for violin and string orchestra was heard on my little speaker on my bedside radio. This incredibly beautiful work turned out to be the Concerto No. 2 for violin and string orchestra, completed in 1957. I remember actually crying during parts of this music of deep spirituality, and remember, I was only 16 years old at that time. I just mentioned a work from the 1950s. We are going to go briefly to the 1960s. During this decade, Hovhaness was inspired by Japanese music and by other countries of the Far East. His work, Floating World, was written in 1964 and employs the same theme as Ghazal No. 1, a piano work dating from 1 year earlier. Alan Hovhaness, as I mentioned earlier, was a very prolific composer. Because of that, some works are rarely, if ever, played. Back in 1981, for example, I had the opportunity to hear the world premiere performance of the oratorio Revelations of St. Paul, Opus 343, which was written in 1980. It was an incredible work, which would be wonderful to hear live again. The work received a huge, and I mean huge, ovation. It was after this performance that I met Shogir Markarian, who was a pianist and protege of Alan Hovhaness. My wife and I were friends of hers for many, many years. What is my final comment going to be? Well, here it is. I am married to the most important woman in my life, Beata, thanks to our common interest in the music of Alan Hovhaness. We got together thanks to the LP recording of the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam by Hovhaness. Well, I had not one, but 2 copies of this recording, and I brought one of them as a surprise for Beata on our first date, which was back on August 9th, 1985. We have been married for almost 39 years, and this is thanks to the music of my musical hero, Hovhaness. All I can say is this is quite a story. Very exciting story. We used Hovhaness's music at our very small wedding. And by the way, just a little side note, we currently still own both copies of the LP containing the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam by Hovhaness. Due to what the music of Hovhaness did for both of us, there will always be a special place for his music in our heart. Hovhaness has been the most important composer in my life. His music of deep spirituality deserves to be much better known and heard literally all over the world. During our difficult times, it will definitely make our world a better place. Thank you so much for listening.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for being here. You're encouraging us, performers, when we sing so crowd and beautiful people around. So, first of all, I would like to thank Ara Gazarian, who, while in Yerevan in September, offered me to play at this wonderful concert, which I was very happy about. Since then, Ara has helped me at all stages in the program, the organization, finding music, and many, many other things. I'm very grateful to you, Ara. Thank you so much. And I would like to say that we prepared my performance together. I have performed in this beautiful place many times, many, many years ago. Accompany Ani and Ara, violinists, in the event of Ruben Grigorian's collection dedication to the Foundation Library when I had to replace their pianist. In 2002, I played solo recital when this beautiful hall was presented with this magnificent instrument. And next year, participated at the concert organized by Elvira Uzunyan for the centenary of Aram Khachaturian. At all the concerts that were held here, I know that President Bob Mayrak was always present, and this was given a special importance to any event. Upon arrival here, now I learned that Mayrak had recently passed away. It is a very big loss for everyone. And I just wanted to start with the prayer of Saint Gregory. It is a very famous piece written for the trumpet and organ and piano. And 10 years ago, I performed it with my colleague and friend, Tom Holter, who unfortunately now couldn't have played. So I will play the piano version. And now I would like to invite Bert Chekijan to read this prayer for us. Please. Goed echt, denk ik. Oh, sinds. Oh, okay. Okay.
Acclaim to the suffering Christ, O Lord. You received affronts without number from your blasphemers, yet each day you free captive souls from the grip of the ancient enemy. You did not avert your face from the spittle of perfidy, yet you washed souls in saving waters. You accepted your scourging without murmur, yet through your meditation you deliver us from endless chastisements. You endured ill treatment of all kinds, yet you want to give us a share in the choirs of angels in the glory everlasting. You did not refuse to be crowned with thorns, yet you save us from the wounds of sin. In your thirst, you accepted the bitterness of gall, yet you prepare yourself to fill us with eternal delights. You kept silence under the derisive homage rendered you by your executioners, yet you petitioned the Father for us, although you are his equal in divinity. You came to taste death, yet you were the life and had come to bring it to the dead. Amen.
Thank you so much, Perch. It was touchable. Աստված լույսերի մեջ պահի մեր բոլոր սիրված հանգուցյալներին։ The name of Alan Hovhaness, it was known to us since conservatory years time, and we knew that he is very famous in America and Europe, but it was Soviet Union, Soviet time, and we never heard his music. It was unattendable, so for us. At that time, of course, I even didn't dream that I could play Alan Hovhaness music here in America. He wrote a lot of compositions. I think he was doing it permanently, and when you're watching his video on YouTube videos, he's going to the coffee and sitting between two people and writing, right? And writing all the time, all the time. This is maybe why his music, he has tremendous amount of music, despite his earliest works were burned by him for one reason. He has a lot of opuses, more than 400, many large works, symphonies, concertos, sonatas, written for almost all instruments. Now, I will start to play magic flute, kahardakan string, then sonnet, which is in Persian, jazal, Mazeret imitation for tar, oud, and canon. So imitating canon and tar and oud. Actually, when Marvin Rosen say farewell to the mountains, I was also thinking, who is Radja? Okay, finally it's cat. Yeah, I understand it's cat. This is why the rhythm here, unbelievable. So there is 23 over 16s, 20 over 16s, 25 over 16s, a lot of different rhythm. So it's really interesting rhythm. Maybe this is how cat can walk over there. My cat also like that. Last pieces will be all naming mountain. You know that for Fujihara-Hovhaness mountains it was the incredible love. So this is why he moved to Seattle, because he liked mountains very much. So this is two pieces for kids, mountains, adults. But name of these pieces is Moon Lullaby and Moon Dance. But the next one, it will be Mountains Dance #2 and Macedonian dance. Just mountains.
he's middle age, I would say.
wrote that. She's Macedonian. Yeah, this read and this spirit.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining this book launch for my mother's book, Fujihara-Hovhaness, Unveiling, one of the great composers of the 20th century. I'd like to start off and talk a little bit about the author. My mother, Hinako, and her sister, Sunako, were raised by a Korean widow in Osaka, Japan. And back in those days, the prejudice between Japanese and Korean was very strong, and they grew up very, very poorly. During World War II, the government allowed citizens to harvest some of the fields for yams, and that was their main source of food during that time. At a very young age, my grandmother tried to establish artistic values in her children, and so she would take them to different art museums, and she tried to socialize with local artists so that they would get a little bit of knowledge about art. And I think it worked out very well, because after World War II, my grandmother herself moved to New York and then later to Seattle, and she established herself as a popular artist, and she had many awards for her artwork. My mother's sister Sunako became a fashion designer in Paris and Japan, and she was known for knitting and color work. As a matter of fact, my wife is wearing one of her dresses that she had designed. After high school, my mother got an internship at a local After high school, my mother got an internship at a local movie studio outside of Osaka, and she actually was in a couple of Japanese movies. She also was into advertising. She had done commercials, and she was on calendars, and later she actually became a soloist. She worked in a nightclub act with a pianist, and they were known as Tony and Joni. My father was a U.S. soldier, and he was stationed in Osaka, and he just happened to be the manager of that nightclub, and that's where he met my mother. And shortly after, they got married, and they moved back to the United States. They had 3 children, my 2 older sisters, June and Joni, and then myself. During that time, my mother kept singing. She actually was in the Seattle Opera Chorus, and she also sang soloist in many of the local churches in the Seattle area. She met Alan in 1974 at a piano recital, and they were married in 1977. From then, my mother and Alan established a Hovhaness Fujihara music company. Actually, it was named Fujihara Record Company initially back in '74, but they changed it. And so my mother did all the promotions, the music distribution, all the financial. So she headed up that business. The motivation behind this book was Alan told my mother many stories about different composers like Mozart, Beethoven, and Sibelius. not only musical but personal stories behind them. And she felt that that was necessary also for Alan, because most people know Alan for his music, but very few of them actually know the personal side of Alan. And by doing this book, you'd be able to tie in, the personal side with the music. The book was originally thought of to be a documentary, but it very quickly turned into a love story. And as you read through the book, there's different phases of their lives and the way they express their love for each other and others. So the first part is kind of the romantic phase. They spent they did many travels and went to many performances, and so there was this whole romantic era. The second part was when they started slowing down a little bit. Colleen and I got married. We had 4 children, and initially Alan was very nervous around children, but we lived, fairly close to them, about 15 minutes away, and we'd visit him twice, maybe 3 times a week, and so Alan gradually got very comfortable with the children, and so he took on the grandpa role, and so that was kind of the second phase. The third phase, the for better, for worse, this ended up being the for worse, but it showed the most the true love between them. Alan started getting sick, and my mother had to, make sure that he saw all the doctors, and she cared for him, made for sure he had, proper food, and she was a small woman compared to Alan, and she used to, carry him around and move him from different places. And on Alan's side, he also, he was having medical problems, and he tried to stay alive as long as he could for my mother. And then the last phase was kind of the remembrance and the longing for Alan after he passed away. So there's a whole part that, my mother remembered certain things about Alan, and all the writings and everything about him. And, she would see for instance, like a purple flower that would bloom in the garden, and Alan's color was purple. And so things like that would bring her back. So the book's journey, after Alan's passing, my mother went through this phase of about 5 years of writing poetry about Alan and to Alan. And after writing hundreds of poems, she had recalled that she had, since the time she had met Alan, she had diary entries, daily diary entries. So she decided that she needed to capture those entries into short stories. And so she did that, and then she, did all the fact-checking and everything. She'd call me occasionally and ask me, do I remember certain things? And so she documented all these into short stories. Her highest goal before she passed on was to publish this book, but unfortunately she got sick and wasn't able to do that. At the time, I was a avionics systems engineer in Oklahoma City, working a government job, and Colleen and I thought about it, and we decided that the highest priority was to, work the business and publish this book. So I retired early. We moved back to Seattle. I started running the Hovhaness Fujihara Music Company, and tried to. There's a lot of still documenting of archives that needs to be done, so we started working on that. But our absolute highest priority was to publish this book. So we went through hundreds of photographs and worked with the publisher. I did a lot of editing. So this book is not a literary masterpiece. And my mother didn't want it that way. She wanted to keep what she called the Orientalness in the writing. And it was more about the subject matter, the presentation, than it was about the actual writing. So that's what we tried to do, is keep it like that, the way she wanted it, and we're able to. And here's the launch now for it. I'd like to go through a little bit of the book itself. The foreword was written by Gerard Schwartz. So Gerard was Alan's last champion, and I have to thank him quite a bit. He helped quite a bit on this book. He helped promote it, and we've done a couple of interviews together, so he's really supportive of this book, and I'd like to thank him. He actually met Alan for the first time in 1963 when he was a young trumpet player, and eventually he ended up being a pretty world-renowned conductor. I guess I'd like to share a couple of stories that are in the book. One of them's William Sororin. So Alan didn't tell my mother about these letters he had with him or how important they were. So after his death, my mother had gone through some of the letter correspondence and found out that he had a very big breakthrough from William Sororin. In the 1940s, Alan and Sororin were very, very good friends. Alan wrote music for a lot of his plays and his writings, but Alan was still kind of trying to establish himself as a composer. And Sororin, in 1942, wrote a letter to Leopold Stokowski to introduce him to the young composer. And the following year, Stokowski performed Alan's first symphony, Exile, with the Los Angeles Philharmonic Orchestra. And then in 1955, Stokowski commissioned his Symphony No. 2, Mysterious Mountain, with Houston Orchestra. Another story in the book is about Andre Costalentes. He was another one of Alan's champions. First time my mother had met him was in 1974, pretty much after they had met, and Alan took her to Hollywood, and that's where they were performing his fantasy on Japanese wood, Prince. So in January of 1980, my mother and Alan turned on the news, and they found out that Andre had passed away. And what they had reported was that he died from a heart attack due to pneumonia. But a few days later, a woman that Alan knew called him on the phone and told him that she was actually with Andre on that trip to Haiti. And the reason why they went to Haiti was because they were having an affair and they didn't want the gossip to get around. So anyway, shortly after they arrived there, Andre got a stomach disease, and he was bedridden. And the place they were staying at, the floor above, he heard voodoo drums all day and all night, which tormented him. And before they could fly him back to the United States for medical treatment, he passed away. So there's a little bit of controversy in how he may have died. Last story I'd like to share with you is about Alan's cap. Everywhere that Alan went outside of the home, he'd always wear an Irish cap. And my mother would go to singing lessons on a weekly basis, and Alan would come with her and accompany her while they were practicing. And on this particular week, Alan laid his coat and hat down on the couch, and they went and did their practice. And when they came back to leave, they found the cap on the floor, and when they picked it up, there were holes in the hat. Apparently, his teacher's cat had got to the hat and chewed holes in it, and his teacher was horrified and didn't know what to do. And of course, typically, Alan said, "I'm very honored that my cap was chewed up by the cat," because Alan loved cats. So, yeah. So as far as the book goes, there's actually two versions of the book. There's a standard version, which comes with imitation leather cover, which I think is actually really nice, and then also a dust cover, and you can see it displayed there. The other one is a collector's book, which is leather bound. It also comes with the dust cover, and then a collector's book that you can store it in or keep it covered in. I did a little shopping around. I think Amazon and Barnes & Noble offer about a 15% discount, and you may have to pay shipping and handling depending on if you have a membership or not. And then I did find thrift books that gives you 25% discount, but you have to pay for shipping. But if you purchase it today, I believe it's a savings of a little over 25%, but there's no shipping cost. So I think the standard version is $30, and the collector's is $40. So, and also you can order it from our website, which is alanhovhanessmusic.com. So, all right, thank you very much for attending.
Well, this concludes our program for this evening. I hope you all enjoyed. May I invite the performers to the stage for... I'd like to thank all three of them for their superb performance, and I hope that we will have the opportunity to have them again with us at this occasion. Okay, so please join us for the reception, and of course, as Bill mentioned, the books are available. If you are interested, you can have them, and then Bill will be more than happy, of course, to autograph them for you. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
ACMi productions are only made possible with your support. Visit patreon.com/ACMi to learn how you can help.